Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. I'm Katie and today we are doing a Witchy Things to Draw. Before we get started, don't forget to hit that like button, and if you haven't subscribed already, make sure you do so you don't miss out on more videos like this one. Right, we have two beautiful prompts here. The first one is a tea light and the second one is a full moon. Now, I thought this was a bit of a challenge to begin with because I do paint pictures of the moon, but they're usually a half moon of sorts. So how I wanted to draw this and the idea I'd got in my head and how I had to draw it were two very different things. As you can see from the sketches at the start, I'd played about with a few ideas of a tea light being held up by two hands in front of a full moon and just played about with that, and then I thought, well, actually I can create a figure out of this, so that's what I did. I went for a double board on this one. I didn't use washi tape this time because I wanted to have a bit more of a raw border for it as well, so you'd got a rough idea. And part of me did want to go a little bit Art Nouveau on this, but I kind of held back a little bit because I think having all the swirly details in the borders and corners, it would have detracted from the full moon we'd got going on there. So the gadgets I used just to create the border were a T-square, which is really good for getting your right angles without it being all fiddly like a set square would be. And the other little tool I used, it's a bit like a compass, but you don't stab the paper, which I know is a necessary evil in some cases, but if I can avoid it, I will. And it's magnetic, it's got a very interesting core which allows the metal rod to swivel around, and obviously you've got different measurements there, and I think for small scale pieces like this it's absolutely ideal. So for the colour scheme, I thought I would go for a more muted one this time, so I used the Japanese Sumi. They're a little bit like the Gansai Kuritake paints, but they are like inkier, if that makes any sense. I have featured them on this channel before and I do intend to play with them a little bit more actually. Since moving house and unboxing all of my goodies, kind of came across these again and I thought this would be quite fun to work with these, so why not? Other mediums I use as well are the Derwent Graphitint blocks, like the paint pans, not blocks, sorry. And again, I just wanted some nice moody colours in there to highlight the brilliance of the moon. I also used some Derivan liquid graphite, and I am actually doing a video coming up very soon featuring just that alone, and I really like how I used it. This particular one, unlike the other Derivan liquid graphite, it doesn't come up once it's re-wet, so when it's down, and obviously there's advantages and disadvantages to that, and I'll go into that in that video, but I thought I'd just sneakily add them in this one too. Anyway, back to what we're doing now. So I used the Derwent Graphitint for her hair. Again, I used a similar colour, but because it's a different type of paint, I think that lends something to it where you can tell there's a difference between the foreground and the background. I also really like the organic textures that are created with this. I do also include a little bit of the Sumi ink in there too, which I did in the background, again just to add a bit of depth, but those delicious granulating qualities, they're just perfect for this. I like the Sumi inks, well you know which ones I'm on about. I like them because they have those gorgeous colour splitting qualities which you can see in the background there. But where the Graphitint adds something is that lovely granulation, and I don't know, I really do like painting in muted colours though, and I'm sure you've seen before on other videos. Which leads me to ask actually, would you like me to feature some more of these muted tones? We are slowly heading towards autumn now, and I think it would be quite a nice appropriate colour scheme to work with for a little while, so let me know. Of course, I do intend to use some more jovial colours too. I've been recently asked to have a look at Brusho, and I might do a bit of a series with that. I've already put together one video that will be coming out soon, but I actually would like to do a couple of follow-on videos, and there's quite a funny story behind that, but you will have to wait for the Brusho video to come out for that one. As for sorting out my studio, well, I've got all the furniture I need now. I did have to go out and get some more, but now it is literally just a case of sorting through what I've got, where it's going to go, and planning some more videos ahead. So I've really appreciated everyone's patience, I guess, while everything's just been so higgledy-piggledy at the moment. It's just given me a little bit of time just to get my bearings with everything, and obviously there's a few life things that pop up here and there, so I've had to handle those too. But I have managed to film a few additional videos ahead of time, so hopefully there'll be a bit more of a regular schedule again, which you all came to know and love. So a massive thank you again for your wonderful patience. I am truly so lucky to have such a gorgeous audience who watches these, and thank you. Anyway, let's get back to the painting. So once the hair was all down, it was time to just start adding in those other details, which is where the graphitint came in quite handy there. I also used a little bit of dried up watercolours that were in a palette somewhere which I'd been using to mix, and that was just to add this radiant yellow coming from the tea light. I'm actually glad I did that, because I think using complete muted tones, I don't think the tea light really would have stood out, and obviously it's one of the main parts of the two prompts here, so just adding that little bit of yellow in there preps things ready for when I go in with those darker tones. And now it's time to paint the moon, and I love this little bit here. So this is where the Derivan liquid graphite is used, and I did a bit of a wet and wet, just smooshed it all around so there was a covering. And the reason why I thought this would be best for the moon is because look at those gorgeous textures for the craters on the moon. I mean, how gorgeous does that look? You know, it did run a little bit wild, but I kind of like that. I mean, it doesn't truly look like our moon, but it does look like a moon. And I'm sure with more practice, I'll get a bit more control over these. Of course, it's now time to start adding some more details and outlines in there. And I thought the red tone Sumi Japanese ink, you know which one I'm on about. I thought that would be a perfect complement to go next to the yellow tones of the candlelight there. I also mix in a little bit of the Derwent graphitint as well. I do think they work really well together and complement each other really well. The Sumi ink did allow me to just have a bit more control though over some areas where the graphitint kind of runs wild, a little bit like the Derivan. And I also used just a smidgen of, again, some leftover watercolour that I dried up in a palette. I used some of that just to add a little bit of colour to her cheeks and the rest of her skin. I used the deeper blue to add outlines for her hair, and also it was time to start adding some more details in there too. I didn't want to go over the top with adding line work to her hair. I think the form of it itself has a good shape to it and flow, and I didn't feel like there was any need to overly emphasise that. I did add some loose strands outside of the main body of hair though, and I really like how that worked out. Again, I just kept working in everywhere an area it would dry, I'd go back over it again, and I loved how these all layered up as well. I'd also decided to give our character a little halo, which I guess you can't notice, but I'd excluded that area using some masking fluid, and let me just say, using tweezers to remove that was the most satisfying thing ever. Because there was graphite on there and it wasn't permanent graphite, I didn't particularly want to rub it off, so using them tweezers was just the right thing. And to just add a very subtle shimmer, I used the Derwent Metallics watercolours. They're not as vibrant, I'd say, as your regular metallics or other ones I've featured on here, and I think that worked out just right. I think if I'd had anything a little bit too shiny, it would have overwhelmed. So just having this very subtle sparkle, I think, just adds something quite nice to it. I used some of the De La Roni Pro White bleed proof ink, their equivalent, to add some highlights and lighter strands of hair, as well as adding a few twinkly stars. I also added an outline around that little halo of moons just above her head, as well as just finishing off her facial details there. I've really enjoyed getting back to drawing witchy things. I think it's a great way to start, especially if you've had a break from doing art, if you do get a prompt book. go for it. Sometimes when you've had a break, the ideas have run a little dry, or maybe you've got too many of them and you just need a project to get it out of your system. Overall, I'm really happy with how this came out. I like the nice moody tones to it and her serene face with the moon behind as well. I do hope you've enjoyed this video though, and I just want to say a massive thank you for watching and waiting as well. Of course, please let me know in the comments what you think of this one, and until my next video, there should be some more on screen right now that I think you'll enjoy, so why not give them a click, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye!